are you doing, Mr. Grossman?
I'm fine, thank you, Todd.
Hey, this is you are the star of the show tonight.
Yes, thank you.
And you deserve to be.
Thank you. The Beatles are the star of the show.
Well, the Beatles have something to do with this, right?
Yes.
And let's show them what we're talking about. This is one of your pieces?
Yes.
And this is Kirka 67?
Yes.
So you have a heck of a file cabinet.
I certainly do.
What's this called? What's the piece called?
Well, this is called Kaleidoscope Eyes, A Day in the Life of Sergeant Pepper. It's a running photographic commentary on the entire evening in chronological order.
Of that particular evening, which was a studio session?
Yes, studio session with the Beatles.
Oh, wow. So you were there?
I was there.
Do you remember what it was like? I mean, really?
It was terrific. They were involved. They did not pose for me. I was a friend, and I just listened and watched and took pictures. They were busy.
Would you have done anything different now, knowing how things turned out with the Beatles?
I would have shot 200 more pictures.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. How many did you get?
About 250 that evening.
That's not bad, huh?
Well, I photographed them a lot other than that, too.
So they were really comfortable with you, and they allowed you to come back?
Yes, yes. I was a friend.
Yeah. What did you think? How did well, I'm going to ask you, how did you befriend, how did you find out about them, and how did you work? You were led to meet them?
The London Daily Mail sent me to Atlantic City to photograph them when they first came to New York. I went there. Time magazine sent me to photograph them on Ed Sullivan's show. I then went to Nassau for the Daily Mail, and came back to New York and showed it to Life magazine, and Life said go back. So I went back. I went to Austria with them for Life magazine, and that's what it was.
Wow, that sounds like an adventure.
It's terrific.
I'd like to show people a few more of your photos.
Sure.
Okay? Here, see.
That's Paul McCartney's father.
Oh, that is?
Yes.
Oh. Interesting. You were just standing right there, and it's almost like he didn't even see you.
They knew I was there.
But they just they're comfortable with you.
Absolutely.
You're almost like a fly on the wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then what do we have on the other side here?
That's George Martin talking with the Beatles as they're preparing for the recording session. George Martin was the record producer.
Okay. And what order are these in? The way you have them arranged, is there a chronological or?
No, not these. In the book, they're chronological.
Okay.
These are not chronological.
Okay. So we've got a whole room full of these photos, and they're all great. But was black and white the only option at that time?
I shot a couple of color pictures,
but you didn't really hold on. Those are not the centerpiece of your work.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at some of the other photos that you have. Some people are going to recognize this one behind us.
Right. That was taken at the wedding of Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. That was in Montreal. And Life magazine sent me up. I spent 2 weeks with them in Toronto waiting for them to get married. They did eventually when I helped them to get out of the hotel in Toronto without being trailed by other press. And so, on their promise, I went to Montreal and got in to photograph their wedding. Richard later asked me to photograph another wedding he had with Susan Hunt.
And who Susan Hunt was?
He married her later on.
Was she an actress as well?
She was the wife of a race car driver. That's all I remember.
Okay. Now, the coup de grace.
John Kennedy announced in Washington in 1960. That day he came to Brandeis University where I was a student, and he came to Brandeis University where I was a student, and Eleanor Roosevelt had a TV show, and he wanted her approval. He wanted her benefaction, her whatever.
He wanted her to be the benefactor
of him, and she didn't accept right away. And I gave that picture to him to use as a possible official portrait. He called it his eyes portrait, but he did consider it.
Do you know that he's ever displayed it in?
He's seen it. I know he's seen it. And the one below it was shot during the campaign. During this one right here, was shot during the campaign. It was the Wall Street parade, and what's interesting to me, this parade was down in Wall Street, and Kennedy. This was during the campaign, and one of the things I like about it is that I know some of the policemen on the side here. That's Eli, and that's Ray, and the mayor of New York is here, and I knew all of these people. It's kind of great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so clear. What
you.
kind of camera did you use then?
Probably a Nikon then.
Now, do you still use a Nikon?
No, I use Canon now.
Interesting. What does that say?
But I like Canon.
But there's no specific reason. Right? It's usually one or the other, right?
I like Canon. Sure, it's one of the two.
Okay. Now, what do you do? I'm going to ask you one other question, though. What do you do differently now that we're in a digital age versus what you did then? Do you prepare the camera any differently? Do you look for different subjects, or does that make a difference?
No, it just means that I don't have to limit myself in shooting. I can shoot in an unlimited way, as many pictures as I want.
You don't have to worry about wasting film as much as you used to.
Because I just see them on the web and say, Henry, that's too dark under there, and right along in there, too dark, throw it out, or whatever. This parade was down in Wall Street, and Kennedy, this was during the campaign, and one of the things I like about it is that I know some of the policemen on the side here. That's Eli, and that's Ray, and the mayor of New York is here, and I knew all of these people. It's kind of great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so clear. What kind of camera did you use then?
Probably a Nikon then.
Now, do you still use a Nikon?
No, I use Canon now.
Interesting. What does that say?
But I like Canon.
But there's no specific reason. Right? It's usually one or the other, right?
I like Canon. Sure, it's one of the two.
Okay. Now, what do you do? I'm going to ask you one other question, though. What do you do differently now that we're in a digital age versus what you did then? Do you prepare the camera any differently? Do you look for different subjects, or does that make a difference?
No, it just means that I don't have to limit myself in shooting. I can shoot in an unlimited way, as many pictures as I want.
You don't have to worry about wasting film as much as you used to.
Because I just see them on the web and say, Henry, that's too dark under there, and right along in there, too dark, throw it out, or whatever.
Now, this last photo that's over here.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor Roosevelt. That's what.
Taken at
Let me get you the slide.